My name is Emily. I always thought I had everything a woman could dream of: a successful and loving husband, Nick, a spacious house in the suburbs, and a stable, measured life. We had been together for over a decade, and I believed that our marriage was more than just a union. It was real, strong love. I also had a sister, Kate, my best friend since childhood. We were different. She was always more daring, bright, loved attention, and I was calm and balanced. But we always supported each other. I was sure that I could trust her with anything. If only I had known that it was all an illusion. The first alarming sign. One morning I was making coffee for Nick. He came down to the kitchen later than usual, a little nervous. "Good morning, love," he mumbled and quickly looked away, sitting down at the table. "Are you okay?" I leaned in, trying to catch his eye. "Yeah, just a tough day at work," he answered too quickly. I noticed how he almost reflexively checked his phone and, without eating breakfast, immediately got ready to leave. It hadn't happened before. Nick had always loved our mornings together. He could sit for a long time with his coffee, talking about his plans for the day. But lately he had often been late for work, coming in late, and when I asked what was wrong, he would answer in monosyllables. Something was wrong. Kate's sudden visit. A few days later, Kate came to visit me. She was brightly dressed, as always, in a short dress and expensive shoes. "Hey, sis!" She hugged me, and then immediately took the phone and quickly texted someone. I felt a slight irritation. She had become too distant lately. We used to talk for hours about everything, but now our conversations were short and superficial. I picked up a glass of wine and decided to start a conversation. "Kate, you've been acting strange lately. Are you okay?" She looked confused for a moment, then laughed. "Me? What's wrong with me? I just have a lot of things to do." But I noticed a nervous glint in her eyes. She avoided my gaze, and her fingers kept fiddling with the bracelet on her wrist, a habit I knew well. She was lying. I didn't say anything, but for the first time, I felt a chill run down my spine. The first sign of danger. That night, I woke up in the middle of the night. Nick wasn't in bed. I quietly left the room and saw him sitting in the darkness of the living room, the phone pressed to his ear. I froze, listening to his muffled but clearly emotional whisper. "You have no idea how much I want you. But she's here. We can't do this right now." A wave of panic and rage washed over me at the same time. Who was he saying this to? I took a step back and slowly walked back to the bedroom. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The next morning, Nick acted as if nothing had happened. He smiled, kissed me on the cheek before work, and I sat there trying not to show that I already knew he was lying to me. I didn't yet know who exactly he was cheating on me with, but I felt this was just the beginning of the hell I was in. I tried to convince myself that it was all just my suspicions, that I might be exaggerating, but inside me, there was already a sense of fear and anger. I could see my husband Nick changing, my sister Kate avoiding conversation, an invisible wall between us. I had to find out the truth. A strange coincidence. The next day, I decided to do something new, unexpectedly show up at Nick's office without warning. "Hey, honey, I was just around the corner. I thought I'd drop by," I said as I entered his office. Nick froze. His eyes widened. "Oh, Emily, I wasn't expecting it." "I'm just a little busy," he replied nervously. Why is he so excited? I moved closer and put my hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay? You look tense." Nick smiled tightly. "Yeah, just a lot of things." His phone was on his desk. I noticed a notification from someone with the letter K. Kate. I left the office, but my suspicions were already burning inside me. First piece of evidence. That evening, I decided to check his car. I knew Nick always left some things in the car: chargers, coffee cups, and sometimes receipts. When I opened the glove compartment, I found restaurant receipts dated the day before yesterday. Dinner for two. But Nick said he was working late that evening. I checked the location. It was an upscale hotel restaurant. Damn it. The fatal call. I got in the car, trying to calm myself down, when suddenly my phone rang. It was Kate. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hi, sister." Her voice was too cheerful. "Hi, Kate." I pretended nothing had happened. "What were you doing today?" "Oh, I was busy at work, like always." I turned pale. She was lying. I already knew she wasn't at work. Can we meet tomorrow? I asked, as if she didn't suspect anything. Kate hesitated before answering, then said, I'm busy tomorrow, but maybe the day after tomorrow. She was lying again. That was enough. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in weeks, I felt real anger. My husband is cheating on me. My sister is cheating on me. They're over. I stood by the car, clutching the restaurant receipt in my hands, and I felt a wave of hatred running through my body. My husband and my sister. Together. Now I didn't just suspect, I knew. But I needed irrefutable proof that would destroy them once and for all. The last piece of the puzzle. The next day I decided to act coolly. No emotions, no tears. If they'd been fooling me for years, I could pretend not to know until I was ready to strike. First I visited the hotel where they had dinner. Excuse me, but my husband left his card here. He was here the day before yesterday. Here's the receipt. I showed him. Can I check his reservation? The receptionist nodded, checked the system, and said, Yes, Nick Roberts had a table for 2. They had a room too. I gasped. The room. Are you sure? My heart was pounding, but I kept my cool. Yes. Here's the system entry. I looked at the monitor and saw the terrible truth. Nick Roberts, suite, 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. The last straw. Their little secret. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just decided that they would pay for it in full. That night I pretended that nothing had happened. I even cooked dinner for Nick, looked at him like before, smiled. And inside me, a hellish plan of revenge was being born. I waited for him to take a shower, took his phone, and in a few seconds I knew everything. The correspondence with Kate, the photos that he kept in a hidden folder, screenshots of hotel reservations. He didn't even try to hide it. I backed up everything to my phone and put it back. Now I had all the evidence. The end of them. The next day I called Kate. Hi, sister, I said in an extremely calm voice. Would you like a coffee? She didn't suspect anything. She didn't know yet that these were her last peaceful days. I sat across from Kate, slowly stirring my coffee. She smiled, not suspecting that I already knew the whole truth. How are you, sister? She asked, playing the role of a caring relative. How am I? My husband slept with you for years, and you're sitting here staring into my eyes like nothing happened. I took a sip and smiled back. Oh, great. Actually, I was thinking about a big celebration. Kate leaned forward. A celebration? Yeah. I think Nick and I should throw something big. I paused, watching her reaction. Like a dinner for family and friends. Her smile faded for a second. Oh, that's unexpected. I watched her hand nervously clench her napkin. What's wrong, sister? I leaned closer. You look tense. Kate straightened up immediately and pretended that nothing had happened. Just surprised. I thought you and Nick had a lot of work to do right now. Oh, we'll find time. I smiled kindly. Kate didn't know that I had started a game that she would lose. The first blow. I came home in a different mood. Just yesterday I wanted to scream, to smash everything around, to hurt immediately. But now I understood. Real revenge is not an emotional explosion. It's an art. I won't destroy them with one blow. I will take everything away from them gradually. And the first step is to expose them. I wrote an invitation to all our friends, parents, relatives. I'm inviting you to a special dinner at our house. This will be an unforgettable evening. I knew they wouldn't suspect anything until it was too late. The game began. The next evening, I returned home earlier than usual. Nick hadn't expected me, so early. I quietly entered the house and heard muffled voices. He was talking on the phone. I froze, listening. I missed you too. Yes, I promise I'll make time. Of course it was Kate. He didn't even know I was standing next to him. I took a deep breath and went out into the hallway, smiling like a perfect wife. Hi, sweetheart. Nick flinched and quickly put the phone away. Oh, hello, sweetheart. You're early today. Yeah, I wanted to surprise you. And you me, right? I moved closer and kissed him gently on the cheek. By the way, honey, we're having dinner for the whole family. Nick froze. What? Yes. Parents, friends. Kate will be there too. His face turned pale. I watched his fingers tremble. That's a great idea, he muttered. Yes, right. I looked into his eyes and saw fear there. He didn't know yet that in a few days his life would be shattered into pieces. I stood in front of the mirror, checking my appearance one last time. Perfect makeup, elegant dress, confident smile. This wasn't just a family night. This was the beginning of the end for Nick and Kate. They thought they were still in control. They thought I didn't know anything. But today I was going to make them show their true colors in front of everyone. The ideal family gathering. At 7 p.m., the guests began to arrive. Parents, friends, relatives, everyone was there. Nick was acting strangely tense. I could see him glancing at the door all the time, waiting for her. And then she walked in, Kate, my favorite sister. She was impeccably dressed as always, but I noticed something new. Her eyes were darting around as if she were nervous. I walked over to her and hugged her tighter than usual. "I'm glad you came, sister," I whispered in her ear. She flinched, but quickly caught herself. "Of course, Emily, you know I'm always here for you." "Oh, and especially in my husband's bed?" The awkward moments begin. During dinner, I watched. Nick and Kate avoided each other's eyes, but at the same time tried to check if everything was normal. I took my glass and smiled. "I want to raise a toast." Everyone fell silent as they raised their glasses. We're all here because we love and appreciate each other. Family is the most important thing in life, right? Loyalty, trust, honesty. I paused, looking straight at Nick and Kate. Their hands trembled. Sometimes people make mistakes, but sooner or later the truth always comes out. Kate's face changed slightly, and Nick drank the whole glass in one gulp. I knew. They sensed a threat. The first trap is triggered. I prepared a little game. After the toast, I stood up and said, "We're going to have something interesting here today. We're all going to have to write one word that's associated with love and marriage." The guests picked up on the idea. Everyone started writing. Trust, honesty, loyalty. I took the 2 sheets of paper I had prepared in advance and handed them to Nick and Kate. The word betrayal was already written on both sheets. I watched as Kate turned pale and Nick trembled. They thought it was a coincidence. "Let's see what you have." I took the sheets and showed them to everyone. Oh, what a strange coincidence. They both wrote the same word. The guests spoke among themselves in surprise. "Does this really mean something?" one of the friends asked. Kate quickly picked up the glass and began to drink, while Nick pretended to smile. But I could already see the fear in his eyes. This was just the beginning. After dinner, everyone was still sitting at the table talking, but I could tell that Kate and Nick were on the verge of a nervous breakdown. They didn't know if it was a coincidence or if I knew something. And that was perfect. I wasn't going to expose them right away. I was going to let them destroy themselves. The second piece of evidence. As the guests began to leave, I walked over to Kate and Nick. "I'm so glad you're both here." I smiled sweetly, as if nothing had happened. "I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful family." Kate barely held back a sip of wine, and Nick clenched his glass tightly in his hand. I picked up my phone and played my voicemail. "By the way, Kate, you left me something here." I played the message my phone had accidentally recorded. "I can't wait. When are you going to tell her?" It was Kate's voice. She froze, and Nick jerked his head up. "What was that?" she muttered. I shrugged innocently. "Oh, I think I left that on my answering machine." "Was that your voice, Kate?" She tried to keep her composure, but I could see the sweat on her forehead. It's some kind of mistake," she laughed nervously. "Yeah, I guess." I winked at her. "But you know what's interesting? This recording was made the same day Nick worked late." Kate almost dropped her glass. I knew they had felt the first blow. But that was just the beginning. Another stab in the back. The next morning, while Nick was sleeping, I did something he definitely didn't expect. I took his phone and texted Kate. I told her. She knows. And I expected a response. Kate replied almost instantly. "What? How did she react? What's next?" I knew. I was right. I took a screenshot and sent it to my phone. Now I had more proof. Nick's despair. When he woke up, I calmly sat down next to him and handed him the phone. "This is what your lover wrote to you." Nick turned pale, as if he'd been doused with ice water. "Emily, this is wrong." "No, Nick, this is absolutely right." I know everything." His hands were shaking. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand very well." I smiled, looking him straight in the eye. But don't worry, honey. I haven't told our parents yet. He froze. What do you mean? You'll find out. I stood up and threw the phone on the table. Get ready, Nick. This is just the beginning. Nick froze, his eyes darting around the room as if he were searching for a way out. Emily, listen to me. I cut him off with a sharp laugh. Listen? Come on. Tell me how you slept with my sister. His face turned chalk white. It's not what you think. Oh, I think exactly the way I should. I threw his phone on the table. And here's the proof. Your girlfriend is already panicking. Nick grabbed the device and paled even more when he saw a message from Kate. What? How did she react? What's going to happen now? He closed his eyes, clutching the phone in his hand. You're not. I took a step forward, leaned closer, and whispered into his face. Oh no, honey. I haven't told anyone yet. I saw him start to panic. And that was just the beginning. Kate's trap. I picked up the phone and dialed Kate's number. What are you doing? Nick rushed towards me, but I raised my finger. Sure. Kate picked up the phone instantly. Nick! I smiled. No, it's not Nick. It's your favorite sister. A deep silence. I imagined her frozen in place, her face contorted in panic. Emily, her voice trembled. What, Kate? Did something happen? I spoke slowly on purpose, enjoying her fear. Listen, sister, I want to meet. I have important news. Silence. Okay, she barely exhaled. Great. I'll be waiting for you at La Belle at 8. I hung up and turned to Nick. I think you both know what's going to happen now. The main blow. By 8 o'clock, I was already sitting in the restaurant, delicately stirring my wine. Kate came in, her eyes darting around the room, searching for me. I waved her over. She came over and sat down nervously. What happened? Her voice was shaking. I took a sip of my wine. Oh, you know, it's nothing special. I just found out my husband was fucking my sister. Kate almost dropped her glass. Emily, that's not. I raised my hand. Don't lie to me. I took out my phone and showed her screenshots of their messages, hotel reservations, photos I had saved. Her face turned dead white. Oh my God. I leaned back in my chair. What, sister? Do you have something to say? She covered her face with her hands. Was it a mistake? A mistake? 10 years of cheating is a mistake. I stood up, crossing my arms over my chest. Listen to me carefully. Kate stopped breathing. Tomorrow, I'll tell our parents everything. She raised her head sharply. No, please. Oh, you don't want them to find out that their perfect daughter is a dirty traitor. She burst into tears right in the restaurant. People around her started to turn around. Emily, what are you? Are you sorry? She nodded convulsively. I leaned over and whispered, It's not time to be sorry, sister. Tomorrow is the day it all begins. I left, leaving her broken and humiliated. The final step. The next morning, I sent a text message to all of our family. Urgent family meeting. Tonight at 6 p.m. at our house. Important. No one knew what lay ahead. But one thing I knew for sure. After tonight, Nick and Kate would lose everything. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Today was the day of reckoning. The clock read 5:55 p.m. I heard our parents, friends, and immediate family start to come in. Everyone was confused. What happened? Why the urgent meeting? I just smiled and invited everyone into the living room. But the main guests hadn't arrived yet. Their last moment of peace. At 6 p.m. the door opened again. Nick and Kate entered. They looked terrible. Eyes red. Kate with trembling hands. Nick with clenched fists. They knew something was going to happen now, but they had no idea how cruel this moment would be. The living room was full of people. Nick looked around. What's going on here? His voice sounded tense. I smiled sweetly and coldly at the same time. It's just, I want to make an important announcement. I looked at my parents. Mom, Dad, you always taught me that marriage is based on love, trust, and loyalty. They nodded, not understanding where this was leading. I looked at the guests. Sometimes, people do terrible things. Sometimes the ones closest to us betray us. I looked straight at Kate and Nick. They held their breath. Today I want you all to know the truth. Exposing. I took out my phone. This is the story of a decade of lies. I connected my phone to the TV and opened the evidence folder. Screenshots of their correspondence appeared on the screen. Photos from hotels, reservations, intimate messages. The room fell dead silent. Mom was the first to scream. "Oh my God, what is this?" Kate jumped up. "Emily, stop it." I wasn't listening. The next video was a secret recording of Nick when I first caught him by the car. "I can't wait. When are you going to tell her?" was Kate's voice. Dad jumped to his feet. Is it true?" He looked at Kate, then at Nick. Nick was silent, as if petrified. "Answer me," Dad shouted. Kate burst into tears. "Yes." The word echoed throughout the room. Aftermath. Mom started crying. Dad turned away, clenching his fists. Friends watched the scene in horror. Kate fell to her knees. "Emily, please." I went up to her and quietly leaned into her ear. "You ruined my life. Now it's your turn." I straightened up and said loudly, "As of today, I'm filing for divorce." I looked at my parents. "And I think you can decide for yourself whether you want to see a daughter like that again." Kate howled hysterically. Nick just silently lowered his head. Their lives had just been shattered into pieces. And I finally felt true freedom. It had only been a few days since my exposure, but Nick and Kate's world had already begun to crumble before their eyes. I was sitting in a cafe, enjoying the best coffee of my life. Meanwhile, they were losing everything. Kate's expulsion. Her parents were shocked and devastated after that night. Mom refused to talk to Kate, and Dad simply kicked her out of the house. "You're not our daughter anymore." I saw her face when she left her parents' house with tears and a suitcase. No one wanted to take her in. "This is terrible. How could she do this?" her relatives whispered. Her friends had turned away from her forever. She was alone. But that was only the beginning of her punishment. Nick loses everything. Nick's business also began to collapse. When his clients found out about the scandal, they started canceling their contracts. "We can't work with a man who cheats his own family." His partner left him. His company started to suffer huge losses. I received an anonymous message. "Nick is in serious business trouble. He's going to go bankrupt soon." I smiled. He deserves it. Their first attempts to save themselves. Kate called me hundreds of times. I didn't answer once. Nick tried to talk to me too. I didn't want to listen to his excuses. I enjoyed every second of their downfall. They didn't just betray me. They broke my heart. And now I was breaking their lives. And that's not the end of it. When I filed for divorce, I knew it wouldn't just be a breakup. It would be a war. And I would win. Attacking his business. My first step was to freeze all of our joint accounts. Nick didn't expect this blow. When he got to the bank, they told him, "Sorry, but all assets are temporarily frozen due to the divorce process." His face was worth all the money in the world. His company depended on these funds. Now he couldn't pay his employees. He couldn't invest in projects. And the worst part, his investors started to back out of deals. "We can't work with a company that's in financial trouble." The last straw for Nick. I got an angry call from him. "What have you done?" He shouted. "Oh, Nick, what happened?" I spoke defiantly, stretching my words. "You ruined my business." I laughed. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is that the same as you ruined my life?" He fell silent. I was enjoying the moment. "You have no idea what I'm going to do next, Nick." He hung up. I knew he was panicking. And that was just the beginning of his collapse. Kate, no way out. Kate was also desperate. She lived on other people's couches because none of her friends wanted to take her in. Her parents refused to help her. "We don't know you anymore," her father said when she asked for forgiveness. She was left alone, and I didn't feel a single drop of regret. She chose this path, and now she's paying for it. The next step is the final blow. Did I stop? No. Now it was time to make sure Nick had nothing left. I hired the best lawyer and filed a lawsuit to get the maximum share of the property and funds. He betrayed me. He has to pay for it. Nick was out of control. His business was collapsing. Investors were leaving. Accounts were frozen. And I had just hired the best lawyer to take everything from him. He was losing. But there was one other person I couldn't let go. Kate. Kate's last-ditch attempt to make a case. I had been waiting for this moment. One morning, as I was drinking coffee on the terrace, my phone rang. "Kate." I pressed answer with a smile. "Hi, sister," I said quietly and coldly. "Emily, please." Her voice was broken and shaky. "Give me a chance to explain." I laughed. "A chance? Do you want a chance? I made a mistake. It was all a mistake. 10 years of betrayal is not a mistake. It's a choice." She sobbed. "My parents hate me. Nick doesn't do anything to help. I'm left alone." I took a sip of my coffee. "Did you think I would accept you back as a loving sister? That you would just say, 'I'm sorry,' and everything would be the same as before? I don't know what to do. You know, Kate, this is not my problem." I hung up the phone. She got what she deserved. The final blow from her parents. But Kate had no idea what would happen next. Her parents decided to officially cut her out of the will. She was losing not only her family, but her inheritance. When she found out about it, she came to her parents in tears. "Please don't do this. I'm your daughter." Mom stood there with a cold look on her face. "A daughter wouldn't do what you did. Dad, please." But her father wouldn't even look at her. "You don't exist to us anymore." Kate was left without a home, without money, without a family. And it was her own fault. Nick was trying to save his life, but I knew his time was running out. His business was collapsing. His friends had turned their backs on him. And now, I was going to deliver the most painful blow. Public humiliation. I was waiting for the right moment. There was a big charity event in town. It was Nick's last chance to save his reputation. He had to be there to show that his company was still alive. But I had my own plans. I knew the press would be there, journalists, businessmen, clients. And I made sure they knew the truth. A scandal for all to see. When the evening reached its peak, I approached the journalists and handed them the materials. Screenshots, hotel reservations, correspondence, everything that proved his betrayal. "You have to publish this," I said with a smile. 5 minutes later, everyone's phones started vibrating. The news spread instantly. Scandal: a famous businessman cheated on his wife with her own sister. The hall fell silent. People began to whisper. Nick was in shock. What is this?" He grabbed the phone and turned pale. His secret was no longer a secret. He became a laughingstock. Clients began to leave. Investors refused deals. Friends turned away. "How could he?" people whispered. I approached him one last time. "What, my love?" I smiled. "Does this feel like betrayal?" His lips trembled. He couldn't say a word. He lost. After that night, Nick and Kate's lives fell apart. Their names became a disgrace to everyone. Nick is bankrupt. After the scandal broke, his company could not survive. Investors refused to cooperate. Clients refused to work with a person who does not know what loyalty and honesty are. Nick was forced to close the business. His house was put up for sale. His accounts were empty due to litigation. He was left with nothing. The once successful businessman was now looking for work, but no one wanted to deal with him. His world collapsed. Kate is an outcast even to her family. Kate also lost everything. She lived in a small rented room because she had no money for housing. No one wanted to have anything to do with her. Her parents refused to help. My friends were gone. She tried to contact me again. "Please, Emily. I know I was wrong. I read the message. And I just ignored it. She deserved it. She destroyed me, and now she's feeling the pain. I won." I sat in the cafe, looking out the window, and I felt at peace. Everything they did to me came back to them tenfold. They lost everything. Their friendship, their family, their money, their reputation. And me. I was free. And I could finally start living again. I knew they were at their lowest ebb. Nick was broke, humiliated, abandoned by everyone. Kate was an outcast, penniless, homeless, and familyless. But that wasn't enough. They hadn't even gotten through the worst of it yet. I had one last card up my sleeve, and now it was time to play it. The final nail in Nick's coffin. I found out that Nick was trying to get a new job, a last chance to save his life. And that's when I sent an anonymous message to his new employer. "You know he cheated on his wife with her sister? Here's proof." I included links to articles and screenshots. A few hours later, he was denied an interview. He was completely destroyed. Now no one wanted to deal with him. Kate's final humiliation. And Kate, she tried to return to her hometown, to at least find a new beginning for herself. But a cruel reality awaited her. When she came to the store where our old friend worked, she was simply refused. "We don't want to see a traitor here." When she tried to rent an apartment, they answered her, "Sorry, but we can't conclude a contract with your name." Kate was an outcast. She wrote me her last message. "You won. I can't stand it anymore." I smiled. Yes, I won. My victory. I didn't regret it. I went through hell when I found out the truth. But I survived. And now they knew what it meant to lose everything. I went out onto the balcony and breathed in the clean air. A new life awaited me. And for them, oblivion. A year has passed. A year since I learned the terrible truth. A year since I destroyed Nick and Kate. And you know what? I haven't regretted it for a second. Where are they now? Nick is broke, lonely, forgotten by everyone. The last I heard, he works as a manager in a discount store. Once a successful businessman, now he has become nothing. Kate left town because no one wanted to deal with her. She tried to start a new life, but with a past like that, it's impossible. She lost everything, and I knew she would always remember it. And me, I'm finally free. I've built a new life, a new city, a new career, new people, no memories of the past, no ghosts of betrayal. I sat in a cafe, drinking my favorite coffee and looking out the window. It was a new beginning, and this time no one would take it away from me. The end. I had my revenge, and I won.
Please subscribe to our channel Stellar Stories. We have new amazing stories coming out every day. Thank you.